Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Decentralized Chain, bringing you the latest news, reviews, and blockchain tech. So today we are going to be reviewing OneLedger ICO. That's right, it is a universal blockchain enabling cross-ledger access through business modularization. So that's a bit of a mouthful, but let's try and understand exactly what that means. So if we kind of go into the architecture overall, the idea behind OneLedger is that you'll have various parts of the business which are broken up into modules. So here in the diagram, what you can see is finance being one module, agriculture, transportation, manufacturing being separate modules. And those can be then broken down into further sub-modules depending on how those businesses are built up. Now, they will then ultimately communicate with the OneLedger protocol through an API gateway, so an application programming interface, and that basically allows to make the requests and calls for the data. The OneLedger protocol will then, within there, have intelligence built in to then go ahead and execute that particular transaction on the relevant public blockchain. And it does that through what they call the process of a sidechain. So a sidechain is created which will allow the OneLedger protocol to communicate with the public blockchain. So in this instance, you could have the finance particular area of the business looking to execute transactions on Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any other public blockchain for that matter, and it will use that sidechain in order to make that happen overall. So to really understand what that means, let's dig a little bit deeper and have a look at the architecture. So as you can see overall, this is the OpenLedger architecture in detail. And what that means ultimately is you have overall the OneLedger Business Center, which is the second box on my right with the arrow coming in. And here, this is the business center. This is where the business models are ultimately built up. So the actual modules that are being accessed are from here. That business module then communicates, as you can see, with the middle layer, which is basically where the digital assets are stored, the OneLedger Consensus Protocol. Now, as part of that protocol, there is identity management built into it, as well as intelligence engine built into it. So that really helps with ultimately defining and providing the security behind that architecture, the roles, the users, who they are, who's using it, what permissions they have, etc. And then you've got the intelligence engine in terms of helping with the routing and ultimately the brains behind the overall protocol. That then consensus protocol will then communicate with the OneLedger sidechain. So here you've got on the sort of second to bottom row, you've got the Bitcoin sidechain, Ethereum sidechain, and private sidechains as well. And it can be others. So this is the OneLedger blockchain layer itself. And then those sidechains will then communicate with the public blockchain. So then as they then communicate back and forth, as you can see on the bottom, that will then validate the transactions, which will then feed back into the overall OneLedger protocol and then validate that transaction from the business modularization section. So as you can see, it's quite well thought out. It's not necessarily a pie in the sky idea. There is depth behind this. Now, in terms of looking at what the consensus protocol is, well, here it works on three levels. It has a role-based consensus, so that's consensus amongst the users and the roles within there. As that then moves further down, you have the sidechain consensus, which is obviously the proof within the sidechain elements feeding up. And then you have the public consensus, which is the consensus that's actually happening on the public blockchain. So it's got three layers of consensus that happens all the way through, providing that security that you need overall as well. So if you were to break that down, what that means, you've got two channels here. You've got business model A, business model B. And so you have the OneLedger business initialization stage. And here the modules created within OneLedger, the roles and responsibility are defined within that contract for that particular element of the business module. That then communicates with the sidechain, the blockchain data, and the reference data within the one channel consensus layer. So you have that second layer of consensus kicking in, and then that sidechain consensus then communicates with the synchronized data blocks on the public blockchain. And the public blockchain will already have its consensus mechanism built in as well. And that then feeds up and provides that security as you then slowly move up that channel. So moving on, what that really means overall is it highlights four key components. You've got business modularization, so there you're able to break it down into smaller chunks, so you can have finance components, you can have agriculture components, actually the pretty cool thing here is that each of these components might be working across multiple blockchains as well. It's not to say that a finance component will only talk to the Bitcoin blockchain. It may also have contracts that it needs to execute on the Ethereum blockchain. So you have all of that baked in. Then you've got the protocol based blockchain communication, and ultimately that is providing the cross-chain support, being able to talk to multiple blockchains using the sidechain capability. And as we go down, we've got high performance transactions. So the idea being here is that rather than it building a brand new blockchain service where all the transactions are occurring on a single blockchain, the idea is that it's actually moving that traffic along and utilizing public blockchains through the sidechain to distribute that traffic as well. So you're actually going to get much higher throughput overall. And then obviously with that, you've got baked in multi-chain runtime support. So the idea is that because it's working with a number of cross-chain blockchains, ultimately, you need to have that level of runtime support. So you've got that reliability backing within that space as well. So moving on and looking at the overall team, what we have here is pretty much a fairly all-star cast. We've got, starting with David Cow, who's the founder and CEO. So David has got around 3 years of blockchain experience. So, a decent amount of time within that space. He's had 10 years of enterprise architect experience. So once again, very well grounded as an individual. Has also worked for IBM in the past. Significant work within the database spaces as well, WebSphere, e-commerce, core engine. He has significant experience and a track record within technology, within the blockchain space as well. So that's really a positive. Looking at Alex Todd, the CTO, once again, pioneer in the fintech. He's an entrepreneur within that space. He's a founder and CEO of Trust to Pay. He's former CTO of Presto. So once again, he's got some significant experience, as well as he's helped develop and support business models contributing to an estimated around $200 million over. So once again, he certainly has the experience from a technical perspective, as well as from running an organization and building that up from the ground. You've got the lead engineer also. So we've got Stephen Lee, and once again, worked with Morgan Stanley, Deutsche Bank, IBM, Microsoft, really all-star, all-rounded, significant experience within the space as well. And as well as that, has become an expert within the Solidity smart contract development for Ethereum as well. So once again, they all know blockchain. They've all worked for large organizations, reputable organizations, and certainly within a technical element as well. Because ultimately, if you think about it, deep down, these are very technical roles. Looking at Edwin Zhang, we've got the managing director. So once again, veteran blockchain startup and investment space. He's had former software engineering leads, spearheading blockchain related R&D for tribal scales. So that's really good. Innovation firm, which basically specialize in emerging technologies. And then we look at their public relations officer. So Othelia, once again, 10 years of experience within the investment management space, expertise in performance analytics, and also has a certificate within Ethereum blockchain development. So these guys clearly know they have the team to really deliver, and certainly the expertise behind it. As well, going in, looking at both their engineers, Alex and Lester, a lot of experience within this space, big data analytics, machine learning, the lot. So really, in my opinion, they have a very well-rounded team, a very well-respected team, and these guys know what they're doing. They certainly have that experience to be able to deliver. To then move on and then have a look within the advisory space, we have once again some very prominent advisors. We've got Trevor Koverko. So those who may not know, he is the CEO of Polymath, and Polymath is a well-established ICO doing very well overall. Now, it's good to have somebody as an advisor who's launched an ICO, who's been in that space always, experience advising them exactly what the pitfalls may be, but also opening up partnerships, opening up doors as well. So this is really good. We've got Matthew Niemberg. So once again, former IBM Center of Excellence, fellow in high performance computing. All this is going to be high performance transactions, everything here that we've got. So it really helps to have advisors within that space. And then you've got Jaw Law, so pioneer in building out ecosystems for digitizing and trading securities on the blockchain. So once again, advisors all within the blockchain space, advisors with backgrounds similar to those who are actually looking to develop the product as well. So this, for me, is certainly a good thing, if not a great thing overall. Now, let's move on and have a look at the token economics. So in terms of looking at the token, we have around 100 million. So token supply is quite low, but then that also does give it room to significantly push up in terms of if the price rises, but also equally move down, just as hard. So sale distribution, we've got around 35%. Seems a bit on the low side, but wait for it, there's a bit more to come. We've got 25% on the community reserve, which I'll talk about a bit later. We've got team and advisors taking 15%, company reserve 10%, and marketing and long-term partners to take another 15%. So the overall split is fine. I don't really have much of an issue with it. And in terms of looking at what they're looking to raise, we've got a soft cap of around 4 million and a hard cap of 15 million. So certainly not that much needed as well. So I quite like the sound of that. They've already raised $1 million in a seed round. Now in the private pre-sale, which is currently looking to happen or about to happen, imminent. So, contact the Telegram group if you're interested in that. They're looking to raise 6 million. And they've got a public pre-sale of around 3 million, and then the remainder will be raised in the public sale of 5 million. Now, the bonuses for private and public are ranging from 20 to 25%, and there is no lockup either in the bonuses. So there is a potential that you could see a dump for those who are looking to at least get out their initial seed investments when looking to partake in public and private pre-sales. Now, as I mentioned before, they've got an element around community reserve, and we're just going to go into that in a little bit of detail. But just before I do, good thing is team reserve locked up for 24 months in a smart contract. That's really good with quarterly releases. So you know that the team are in it for the long run. They certainly are not disappearing off anywhere soon. Advisors are locked for 12 months with a monthly release. So I also like that as well. So there's no significant quick dump of advisors and their initial investments. Company reserve is locked for 24 months in a smart contract with a monthly release. So to be honest, I like everything that I'm seeing here. They're certainly not opening up everything for an immediate dump in any way. It's a slow release of the tokens. Now, the community reserve. Let's talk about the community reserve and let's talk about how the actual token fits into all of this, because it's not just that you're buying the token in order to raise the money. The token does have a value within the actual ecosystem. So looking at it overall, what we have here out of the white paper is really the community reserve. The idea here being, and as you can see, it's a self-fulfilling circle, that it almost provides a pool of liquidity for the tokens. The idea being that developers will create modules and place them in the marketplace. Now, within that, users will then purchase and use those modules from the marketplace in order to perform certain transactions or communicate or run certain services across that blockchain overall. And then on top of that, you then have also nodes providing the support and the backbone for the network as a whole. And all of this is done by transferring the token, OLT in this case, the OneLedger token, across that. So services are bought using OneLedger token. Developers are basically then paid using OneLedger tokens. Nodes, or those supporting the network and running the network, running the backbone behind the network, are also paid for running the actual masternodes for all of those elements. So that is, as you can see, it's a self-fulfilling circle in terms of there is always liquidity in the pool being transferred around. And so there is always that element which will never ever really be taken out. That 25% is for the community. It's not for the team. It's not for the investors. So ultimately it is still locked in. So while there's only 35% being sold as part of the crowd sale, there is that floating liquidity to actually provide movement within the ecosystem and to let it continually move around. So that is what we have in terms of that element. Now, if we jump quickly back in, quick calculations around what the cost per token will be. So I've got roughly around 35 million, which is going to be up for sale. They're looking to raise around 15 million US dollars. So that will put the price of one Ledger token at 43 cents. Now you will get it. So that I'm going to take down as being the public sale price. And obviously if you get into private and pre-sales, then you can look to shave roughly around 8 to 10 8 to 10 cents off that price and get in at around the sort of 32 mark overall. So that's kind of what we got within the token metrics element. So moving on, let's have a look at the roadmap in terms of when it is that they're actually going to be delivering this ICO. So starting off, we have Q3 to Q4, final white paper, theoretical proof of concept, Q1 to Q2. So hopefully by the end of Q2, we should be seeing the launch of the Ethereum sidechain testnet. This is key because we're going to really need to see something rather than white paper examples. Along with that, there's going to be the synchronization element with the sidechain and the OneLedger protocol, implementing the cross-optimization chain consensus. So we've got quite a few things that we're expecting certainly within Q2. And if they can deliver those within Q2, which will basically be the launch of the MVP, that will certainly give it the proof that we need to see. And I have no doubt that they will be able to deliver what they're looking to deliver as a project overall. Certainly by looking at the team and the expertise, I can see that already. Q3, Q4 will then look at extending out to Bitcoin and providing the support for that. And then ultimately there will be an alpha launch at the end of that process. So an alpha launch towards the end of the year, really. And then 2019 will be the first release of the OneLedger platform. So guys, to me, this certainly isn't a quick flip in any way. You know, if you're going to be investing in this, you are investing in this from the medium to long term. And I think that's the best way to go about it here, because clearly if these guys can achieve what they're looking to achieve, it's going to be phenomenal within this space, because we do need some of that cross-chain work to really just start happening and start rolling out overall. In terms of looking at their GitHub, so quick view here, there is some activity happening. So we've got the token and smart contracts for OneLedger. We've got the website elements. So if we kind of go into the OneLedger GitHub repository, and as we can see, there is slowly beginning to pick up commits over the last couple of days, over the last day as well. So certainly there is activity happening within that space. Now let's move on to the hype. So let's have a look at the awareness. Overall, it's going to be low, and I'm expecting it to be low because it is a very early stage in on the project. We've got around 18 readers on Reddit and various posts from other YouTubers, obviously openly talking about the platform. Telegram, once again, it's low, 2,383 members, and I suspect this one will start growing traction sooner or later. So awareness is low at the moment, but whether it will stay low, I personally don't think so. I see this becoming and blowing up quite quickly. So final thoughts in terms of where I see this project. Well, I've given it a 4. I really like what they're doing. I like the whole cross-chain space. We certainly need some good working products within that space. Prototype, I've given it a 0 because I haven't seen one, but they're looking to deploy something at the end by the end of Q2, which will form their MVP. If that's the case, I don't have any issues with moving that right up to a 5. It will show that they're working specifically with one of the more popular blockchains, being Ethereum, utilizing those smart contracts. So that's really good, and I'd love to see that, and I'd be more than happy to change the scoring on that. The team, I've given it a 4. They're all very well experienced. They've all had significant backgrounds within the blockchain space, as well as some of them being credited Ethereum developers. Likewise, the advisors, just as equally competent in terms of the space that they're in, but also significant experience within the blockchain space as well. So looking to open up those doors, create those partnerships. Those are really good things to see within a project overall. Token metrics, I've given it a 3.5 to 4. The token cap is quite, in terms of the number of coins, it's quite low. Overall, the price is around 43 cents. That seems quite high for a token, but then again, the cap is low as well at the same time. It all feeds in really, low cap, low coin supply as well. So you are going to get much more higher value in terms of coin when you're buying it. But equally, it has, certainly looking at the team, these are looking like an all-star team to me. So once it launches, I have no doubt that price will certainly multiply and relatively quite quickly. Hype, once again, I've given it a 2. It's not a bad thing that the hype is a 2 at the moment. Like I said, it's an early stage project. We're getting in early on and getting the review early on. So I suspect over time, this hype is really going to significantly grow. Anyway, guys, I hope you've really enjoyed this review. I've certainly enjoyed going through this project. I really like it. I love flow diagrams in general, so it makes it much easier just to communicate it to yourselves. If you liked it, please share and give a thumbs up to the video. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel so you can see more of the latest. And if you disliked it, please leave a comment below and let me know what it is that you disliked, and I will try my best to improve on the next review. Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon.